Hey everyone, Calebyte here. Now that the Destiny 2 beta has come and gone, I wanted to take a look at the user interface and menu layout that was presented, highlight some appreciated improvements, and indulge in a bit of speculation to fuel that hype train as we look forward to the full release. If you're a returning Destiny player, there's a lot here that you'll recognize, but for the sake of any new Guardians, I'm just going to go over everything. Let's start with the in-game display. Loading into a mission is mostly the same, with a resized activity header and a nicely tweaked objective tracker over on the side. Interestingly, the subtitles have changed from the yellow with black outline to an off-white with transparent background. I don't know why I felt like pointing that out, but it was something I noticed. Your Guardian information has some small but appreciated improvements. The super meter now has an icon, and the abilities are colored to match the subclass you're using with your grenade, melee, and now the new class ability. When your grenade comes off cooldown, there is still that little sound cue from Destiny 1, but none are present for the other abilities, at least there weren't any in the beta. When your super is charged, there's a nice fancy graphic that shows up rather than just the plain text of Destiny 1. Unfortunately, that animation does play every time you unpause or respawn, so if you're holding onto your super for a while, be prepared to see that a lot. Opening the Ghost menu, which I will never stop calling the Dinkle button, has a very easy toggle to change your voice channel. This prompt also shows up when you die and are waiting to respawn or for a revive. Your radar now has compass-like tick marks around the edge for visual flare, and the section divider lines have been removed. It functions the same as before, but the color shading up for threat proximity has been improved to a nice gradient. In D1, you could do radar peeking by quickly releasing and repressing left trigger when aiming to take a quick look at your radar and see if there's anyone nearby. In D2, there's a short delay on when your radar returns after aiming, so peeking isn't nearly as effective as it once was. The health bar has been smoothed out to be a little smaller and cleverly uses the stylized border graphics to show you the shield health breakpoints rather than the arrows they used before. Enemy faction symbols replace where the level indicator used to be, and majors have neat tags like Honored or Resilient to distinguish them. Their yellow health bar has been changed to a darker orangey shade with sections to indicate the increased health. Ultras or named special or mini-boss type enemies still have the yellow health bars. And don't be fooled like I was in thinking that there's a correlation between the health sections and the boss phases. There isn't. The sections are just a visual aid to show damage dealt. Hopefully that'll change because I forgot that every time I got to the boss. Every single time. Shield health is still shown as a white bar, but it has been moved to the bottom. The new position and changed color help it stand out a lot more, and the shields themselves seem to be a good bit brighter. It also looks like each faction has their own style of shield. This Fallen shield looks very similar to D1, but the Cabal and Vex shields have new designs that I like quite a bit. In the Crucible multiplayer mode, there are some really significant changes to the displayed information. Underneath your radar is a map callout location, a very simple but greatly appreciated improvement that will help teams communicate more clearly. The score and game timer have been moved to the top, and you'll notice icons to show you which subclasses are present in the match, who's alive, and if their super is full. Your icon will always be right here. In Control, the zone indicators have been removed in favor of showing you how many zones each team controls underneath the score. The kill feed functions largely the same, but will now tell you who's cast their super and the location where power ammo is collected. If you're killed, your assailant's information is listed over here. And I don't have footage of it, but if you're being chased by a Voidwalker's ball of boom, the edges around your screen have a purple fringe. It's pretty cool looking, and I'm hoping that other supers have that same kind of touch. In addition to knowing where power ammo was picked up and what weapon was loaded from the feed, each power weapon also has a unique color indicator to let you know what's pointed in your general direction. The red cross on sniper rifles is very similar to the scope glint from D1. I don't have footage of all the other weapons, but if you'd like to check out the post by Reddit user Chris D Animation, it's in the description. According to that post, the colors are sniper rifle is the red cross, shotgun is white, grenade launcher is red, rocket launcher orange, fusion rifle blue, linear fusion rifle purple, though that last one is unconfirmed with photo evidence. Enemy grenades also have a red glow around them, which helps you identify those pesky enemy lightning grenades stuck to walls. This isn't unique to the Crucible, but if you're using a weapon that has a conditional buff, like reloading after a kill grants bonus damage, when you trigger that buff, the weapon will glow. It's neat. I'm not sure if this will be the case in the full release, but in the beta there was no scoreboard. Hitting the Dinkle button just showed the players on each team, and even the post-match results were devoid of any kind of score metric. I kinda like this. It reminds me of Overwatch's scoreboard that shows you your stats and gives you a medal to indicate how you're doing relative to your team, without showing you their numbers. It helps reduce criticism of individual player performance, which I think is perfect for quick play. I do like being able to see my own kill, assist, death, capture, whatever stats to gauge my personal performance, but I'm okay with not seeing everyone else's or even having a score. And as a side note, I really hated those bounties that had a score minimum in specific Crucible game types, so if those are gone, I'm doubly happy. Opening the character inventory shows a very familiar layout to returning Guardians. Glimmer and Legendary Shards are now listed on the character page instead of being pushed over to the inventory page. Your light level is now called Power, and holding left trigger shows you the element and power level of all the items you have equipped, making it easy to identify your lowest power items that you should prioritize replacing. You'll notice that Intellect, Discipline, and Strength have been replaced by Resilience, Mobility, and Recovery. These function similarly to the subclass stats of Armor, Agility, and Recovery from Destiny 1, but are now modified by the armor you're wearing instead of by the perks in your class tree. The amount you have allocated to each stat is represented as a number on the main screen, but a bar when highlighting or examining armor. I do miss the tier indicators that were eventually added to Destiny 1 for Intellect, Strength, Discipline, and I'm hoping that something returns, but we'll see. If not, the Reddit community will no doubt build a list of values for each stat in due time. I noticed from the armor available in the beta, you can get a total of 3 stat points from helmets, gauntlets, and boots, and 4 from chest pieces. The bar is much less ambiguous than it seems, as it shows you either 1, 2, or 3 points being allocated. Now what bugs the absolute mess out of me is that on the main screen it's listed as Resilience, Mobility, Recovery, but on the gear itself it's ordered Mobility, Resilience, Recovery. If you didn't notice it, you won't be able to unsee it now. Also, when examining a piece of armor, the stats show up in the bottom right, and this can be extremely hard to see sometimes, but hopefully both of these are already fixed since the beta was an older build. There are 3 types of armor that we know of so far: Heavy, Restorative, and Mobile, which tell you the stats that each piece of gear tends to favor. From the beta armor, it seems like classes are still retaining their stat preferences for Titans having armor, Hunters having more mobility, and Warlocks more recovery. 1 stat point is determined by the armor type, 1 by your class type, and the 3rd by your perk selection on the gear itself. That's what I noticed anyway, but there isn't enough armor available to know if that's exactly how it's going to work. Class items seem to no longer alter your stats other than power level, and I'm really happy about that. I'm also not quite sure what extra impact ghost shells are going to have, since it just seemed like placeholder information in the beta. We're also getting a new piece of gear called a clan banner, which is neat. Going to the emblem and ship selection is much easier by just pressing down on the D-pad instead of having to hover over that little awkward arrow and select it. What's really interesting though are the options we get a peek at when we start examining pieces of gear. Unsurprisingly, the infusion system is returning, but we also have armor and weapon mods. For armor, these will improve ability cooldowns among other things. I'm not sure what all we can expect from weapon mods, as we've only seen ones related to elemental damage. We also see that each of our non-exotic weapons, armor pieces, ghost shells, and even ships have a shader option, so we might finally be able to create some truly ridiculous color combinations for our Guardians, and I am super excited about that. The weapon summary shows a few more stats like handling and rounds per minute, and the perk trees have been greatly simplified. Weapon stats are not random in Destiny 2, so every Better Devil's hand cannon will have the same base perks. There's no mention of planetary materials being needed for upgrades, and that could just be because the beta weapons were already leveled, or maybe the weapon leveling system is gone in Destiny 2. The intrinsic perk on the weapon also shows a currently equipped notation on it, which to me implies that we'll be able to change this out at some point, but that is pretty wild speculation. We'll have to wait and see what they do to give variety to repeated drops. Within the subclass menu, you have 2 options for the new class ability, and 3 for grenades and jump. Your other subclass perks are presented in 2 groups and have the standard melee, grenade, super, and miscellaneous modifications. Now, since we only had the one block opened in the beta, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe that we'll only be able to select between these preset blocks, Attunement of Chaos or Attunement of Hunger, for example. While this sounds disappointing, it does create an interesting possibility that a number of users have pointed out on the Destiny subreddit. It could pave the way for the developers to add in more attunement blocks to existing subclasses down the road, giving us more ability and super modifications to mix things up within the subclasses we already have without having to build new ones. And I think that would be really awesome. This is unconfirmed, but given the other design choices around being able to maintain balance while still adding content, it feels like a real possibility to me. All in all, I'm happy with the beta. It wasn't perfect, but it does seem like it's a much better starting point than the Destiny 1 beta all those years ago. It also seems to me that Bungie has a clearer idea of the kind of game and experience that they're trying to create. Thanks for checking out this first look at the Destiny 2 user interface. If you noticed something I missed, have any questions, or would like to suggest a topic for a future episode, we'd love to hear it. Leave a comment below, blow up our Twitter feed, or come hang out during a live stream, whatever works for you. Take care, Calebyte out.